Hello, my name is Samuel George London and welcome to Comics for the Apocalypse. On today's episode, I speak to comic book artist, writer, animator, and fabulously fun person Bryony Evans about what comics she would take into the apocalypse. But before we get into it, I'd like to give a shout out to Tom from the That Comic Smell podcast, who noticed that we had a P missing from the apocalypse in our artwork. So thanks a lot, mate. Your superior observational skills are very much appreciated. Also, if you do enjoy the show today, please leave a review for us on iTunes or whichever podcast service you use, as not only will it let me know that I'm doing a good job, but I believe that it helps others aware of the show as well. Now, without further ado, on with the show. Hello, Bryony Evans. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing all right, thank you very much.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for being here. It's a real pleasure to have you on Comics for the Apocalypse. And for anybody that doesn't know, what do you do in the world of comics?
So I'm part of a 5-friend collective called Wine and Zine. So that's with 4 of my other friends from university. And I mean, we've only done like one narrative comic, but we're like multiple print collective. So our last one that came out was the Wine and Zine anthology. So that was just our little tester baby to see if we could actually do narrative and if it was feasible. So, and it had really good reviews. So we're definitely going to do some more of that. But I think we're all sort of working on our own things this year. So maybe the year after that, we'll have volume 2.
Excellent. And where can people find that?
So for Wine and Zine, we have a website which basically is just our hub, which is our store, and anything you want to find about us, all our links and stuff are there. And we also have a podcast as well, so you can find that there as well. And that's Wine and Zine, Wine and Zine shop. Big cartel. Let me check actually. This is really
it's okay. Honestly, there are so many links to remember in the
I know, but I've said
these
this
days,
1,000 times. I should really know what the website is. Let's have a look. Oh yeah, okay, sweet. So it's wineandzine.bigcartel.com.
Perfect, nice and simple, excellent. And for anybody who wants to go check that out, will be in the show notes, so you can just click through on that. Well, as I was saying, thank you so much for being on Comics for the Apocalypse. And after your random number choice, I'm afraid that there's an asteroid coming towards Earth.
Oh no.
Yeah, it sucks. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news.
That's great.
So I've got 2 questions for you. Let's say that it comes up on the news that in a week's time, this massive asteroid is going to hit the Earth. What are you going to do? And then the second question is, what do you do when the asteroid actually hits?
Oh man. Okay, so
So
I
what's
mean,
what's your reaction when
it
you've
would
kind of
be
got a week left
it
for this
would
asteroid to hit Earth?
I mean, after a little cry, I would probably just like get on a plane somehow if planes are still running back to the UK, and I'll just party with some friends, and then have a little hug with my gran, see my fam, and I'll probably party some more with my friends at the end then as well. Just go to the pub. So like, if somehow the pubs are still running and
I'm
people,
sure they would be. I think
somehow
they'd
they've
probably
been
be pretty
staffed
lax, but
to
yeah,
run the
they
pub.
won't be staffed. Everybody will be helping themselves, but that's the fun of it, I think.
Have some board games probably as
Yeah,
well.
they are
I'd probably just do the things I most enjoy. Like
nice.
somehow the asteroid wouldn't affect like the
You just
structure of
carry
anything.
on.
Yeah, do an escape
Excellent.
room.
And so no preparation for the aftermath.
Oh, if there is an aftermath, that'd be
Yes,
great.
yeah. So you do survive the asteroid hit because it hits the
Right.
opposite side of the globe. But obviously
Oh man.
I know it sucks.
Sad.
Um, yeah, I'm afraid it kind of hits
Okay.
let's say the middle of Australia. So
Okay. Oh,
least
God.
population.
No.
So yeah, it's had minimal kind of instant deaths, but obviously that has a massive impact on the on the globe. We kind of go into an ice age basically,
Okay. Right.
and all of that
Yeah.
jazz. So what's your plan from there? Because
Hmm.
society started to break down as well.
Oh man, sounds like an episode from Devilman Crybaby. It's like halfway through the show. Just anarchy. Um, well, I guess if like, the whole thing whenever there's like end of the world, if there's not like a common enemy, which I guess is just the asteroid, I guess
Yeah,
I'd like to hopefully think everyone would work really hard together and rebuild.
yeah,
That would be like a really optimistic view.
it's possible.
Yeah, in great times of of disaster, hopefully they'll be great, hope.
Excellent. So you'd
And
rally people together.
yeah, hopefully, I mean, if the worst has happened, hopefully, people can work together. This is like, obviously, I know this is not what's going to happen, but great, it's my
You
answer.
never
I could
know.
say whatever I want.
Yeah, totally.
Everyone,
That's fun.
everyone just works together and rebuilds whatever they can from whatever they got. Yeah, I guess maybe for a few years it'd probably be a bit Mad Maxy though,
Mm,
with people collecting scraps and stuff.
yeah, would be a little bit. Because obviously farming goes downhill because most of the globe is in an ice age, and so it becomes very,
Yeah.
very difficult, and food becomes very
Okay.
scarce.
So the odd bit of cannibalism is needed. So
It might
I
be.
mean, yeah, but I mean for the greater good, whatever.
Sure, sure. Awesome, straight in there. So I'm imagining in my head now that you're kind of this leader who kind of has some part-time cannibalism going on.
I mean, I don't condone the cannibalism,
Yeah,
but I
obviously
mean, I wouldn't be surprised if a few tribe members just,
went off the rails.
looked at Jeff and goes, he's he had some burgers in his time, and just Jeff's not there the next day.
I did. Excellent. So you won't tolerate it as a leader.
Um, Generally, from history, it does not turn out well when people start
No,
eating each other.
definitely not.
Um, Unfortunately, there's quite a few examples of it, but I've listened to a few podcasts where cannibalism's turned up, and generally it doesn't end well, even no matter
No,
how hungry people get. The aftermath is not great, so I'd be like, no,
brutal.
eat some grass or something.
Yes, eat something proper.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So, what I'm imagining now is that you're kind of this leader on like a hill fort, and you're all round a campfire one night,
Hmm.
and the topic of comics comes up because
Ah.
your profession comes up of what you used to do before the asteroid.
Explaining to the children like the old art
Yes.
form made of trees.
Oh,
Flat trees,
imagine
children.
flat trees. And the first question that comes up is what's the first comic you remember enjoying?
Um, so the first, I had to think if I read any as a child, and I don't think I did. I wasn't into Beano or anything like
Hmm.
that. So I think I sort of skipped the whole childhood comic reading phase. Um, and when I discovered Shonen Jump for the first time, that
Right.
was like, that started something.
Awesome.
So anyone who doesn't know what Shonen Jump is, um, it's like a huge catalogue of the most up-to-date action manga. Um, and I don't even know how I discovered it. Because I had to travel all the way to Cardiff, which was like an hour and 20 minutes in the car.
Wow.
So, and there was no ordering stuff off the internet in those days. So, or even online manga. Like now I could just, find it online and stuff. But, well, I guess if it's the apocalypse, there's no online, but that's another story, children. But yeah, like I had to travel a fair bit to get to it. But I really liked it because I was really into Shaman King at the time. Um, and that was a manga by Hiroyuki Taike. Oh man, all the foreign names are not gonna end well.
You did well there. It sounded good.
And I was really into the anime, and it was on like after school, and me and my friend, we just loved it. And then I discovered there was a manga, and I was really into that. I just loved the art style, like the really like slick pen moves. Like it was really like sort of like you could tell it was drawn with a ballpoint pen kind of thing. And yeah, I just really loved that manga when I was a kid. It's about this young boy called Yo, and he wants to be the Shaman King. So it's the Shaman King is someone who will like connect with the Great Spirit, and they'll reshape the world the way they wish it to be. So there's like a tournament once every like 100 years or something, and he's one of the contenders. So it's basically just a tournament-esque fighting series. But all the characters are really crazy, and yeah. So that was like the first sort of I really want to read this thing because I wasn't really
And
that
how old
into
were you there?
it. Ooh, let me think. I was definitely in school.
Right.
And it was after Pokemon, it was after Digimon, and it was after Cardcaptor Sakura. So I think I would have been maybe about 13.
Great. I love those stages.
Oh,
It was after
there
Pokemon, Digimon, and Card Captors.
I mean, I
It was
left
great.
out Yu-Gi-Oh! And
Oh, all of that. Yeah,
Beyblade,
sure.
all the really bad.
Brilliant.
But yeah, Shaman King was like, I don't think it's really, stood the test of time much as in an anime sense, but I loved it when I was young, and when I found out there was like a manga of it, I was like, what? So and yeah, so Shonen Jump had all kinds of stuff in it as well. Did also have Yu-Gi-Oh in it as well, but and Dragon Ball Z, but I wasn't that into Dragon Ball Z.
Didn't kind of jump out at you.
No, their faces used to creep me out a lot.
Yeah, it's
They're
pretty
like
intense.
they're very angry brows.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I was more into the stories where it was like younger kids protagonists, so I could just sort of jump in their shoes, and yeah, that was more appealing for me when I was younger.
Excellent. So the next question that comes up around the campfire is what was the funniest or comic that made you laugh out loud the most?
Yeah, this was a hard one. I think a lot of people might find this a bit tricky because laugh out loud, a lot of comics, I find, yeah, they find it quite hard to do that. It's different with comic strips, like, little web comic strips. I could list 1,000 of those. But an actual like physical comic, I was like, oh yeah, which ones made me like laugh? And the closest I got to was Giant Days by John Allison.
Great.
And I just absolutely love that series to bits. I discovered it after I graduated, but it just made me feel very nostalgic of university life. So it's about like these three friends and who become friends in university, Esther, Susan, and Daisy. I also just really liked how it was set in Britain, because especially stuff that's trying to be funny, a lot of them are American comics. So to see like a British one where I don't know, I could just tell it wasn't American. I was like, oh, like I don't know,
I think it's even set in Leeds or something, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just the way they were speaking and the architecture. I was like, it sort of didn't clock on until they went outside, and I was like, oh, wait a minute, that's Britain.
Yeah.
American houses aren't that small.
Yeah, they're driving on the left and
Yeah. So, yeah, it just made me feel really nostalgic. Like I just love the whole reading about university life and, all the potential it has of these characters, like, leaving home for the first time and, and all the characters are really well established and charming as well. Like Susan's just an arsehole and I love her.
brilliant.
Really strong-headed. Daisy's just a very adorable, naive girl. And also, I think she's either bio gay. I can't quite remember. I'm not up to date. But that was really nice just seeing that sort of side represented and not her being like a cliche gay person. Like they're always really depicted as very promiscuous and all that kind of stuff, whereas she's just like a really sweet girl. So that was really refreshing to see that character trait as well.
Great.
And then Esther, who's a total goth. And I love her as well because I was also a total goth, not in uni, but in school. So I was like, brilliant. Yes, I know where she got those boots.
I love that. Did you actually recognise the boots?
Oh, they were definitely from Blue Banana.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Brilliant, fantastic. So the next topic that comes up is, what was the saddest or most upsetting comic that you've read?
This I could answer straight away, because it's the comic that took me the longest to read because I just knew I wasn't going to have a good time reading it. So the saddest is Habibi by Craig Thompson. I don't know if you know Craig Thompson's work. He's an amazing draftsman. Like his work is just very masterfully crafted. Just with it's all just black and white, just black ink. But the detail is just crazy. And how big his comics is also crazy. I don't know how he does it. I think he must have some sort of arm strain at the end of it and need to just rest it for like a few months or something. But Habibi's basically like, so the word Habibi means beloved in Arabic. So it's a tale, it's a very dark tale, set in, I think it's either Afghanistan. Oh, it might be actually I'm not sure if it's a made up country now that I'm thinking about it. Oh, I'm not sure. Okay, actually, maybe cut that. I don't know. But okay. in an Arab country, and it's just about these characters trying to just survive and like in this and like desperately just trying to live, like not even live, just literally survive in this like horrific time and society that they live in. So it starts with a boy and a girl. I should have written more notes. I can't remember their names. This is really bad. Oh wait, hang on, I did wrote it down.
You do have it, amazing.
Yeah. So it's about these two characters, Dodala and Zam, and it just follows them, just trying to live their lives. So they start off when they're children and they meet, and then they get separated, and especially the girl, man. Like a lot of people give it a really bad review purely because it's just too much. Like everything that's like a trigger warning is just in this book, basically. Like everything awful that can happen to a human pretty much happens to both of them. Like the whole shebang. There's like heavy poverty, there's like sexual abuse, there's genitalia mutilation, there's like racism, there's lots of rape, lots and lots of rape. So it's but it's not just
upsetting.
Oh yeah. And it's just, I mean, it's amazing how the characters keep going. And then but just the like at the end of it, it's meant to be a positive outcome initially with the they keep going, like, and just all the bad things that could possibly happen. I was almost angry with like Craig Thompson. I was like, just give them a break, man. Like, come on. You've been through so much. And I think that's what kept me reading was just I wanted to know, like, God, how could it get worse? But I knew it might have gotten worse. So I had to really be in the right mindset because I knew I wasn't going to feel great after reading it as well. And especially with Craig Thompson, I don't love the way he depicts women. I feel like he angelicifies them quite a lot. Like you can tell a man wrote it, basically, I guess, from the woman character's perspective. But like it's an absolutely gorgeous book. Like I would just spend ages looking at one page at the mass amount of detail, and like he uses like the type of language as well in Arabic culture, like poetry is like a big part of it. It's a really like mesmerizing read, especially when there's pages like an upsetting page, maybe when like someone's getting tortured or they're going through either a physical or a big mental abusive time. He just does this spread on this page, and it's just so powerful. Like no words. It's just really, really powerful, but it is very upsetting. So I would say, like, for people that, can easily get triggered or, just don't want to get involved with that kind of content, this is not the book for you. But if they kind of, it's a weird one to recommend because it's like, it's a good book, but it's just not a fun time
It's a challenge. It's a challenge.
I mean, maybe start off with Blank if you're going to read his stuff, which I think everyone should. He's just an amazing draftsman. Right. Start with Blankets.
Cool.
That's a lot easier to digest. And if you finish, and that's still a big hefty lump of work. Like you just do it, you're like, one person did this? Like what? Like, and he's making more. It's crazy. So I recommend Blankets. And if you can get through that, and you're thinking, do I want a really, really dark version of this with like a very old Arabic setting? Then give Habibi a go. But I read Blankets first and then I jump into Habibi, and I'm sort of glad I did it in that order. So yeah, that's just a sad one, man. So many sad. It didn't make me cry,
right?
But it just made me feel like sad.
Yeah.
About humanity multiple times. Yeah.
No doubt. That's hardcore, but yeah, I think it's important to kind of approach these emotions and these things, and particularly through comics. That's a good tip, kind of to ease yourself into it from going from Blankets to Habibi.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the next topic that comes up is, what's the scariest or most horrifying comic that you've read?
Okay, so I don't actually read any horror genre. I haven't even read like Walking Dead or anything like that. So I had to think about what sort of shook me. And I was thinking of mentioning like one of Emily Carroll's comics, because her stuff is super creeps. Like I do get chills down my spine reading her stuff, but I thought I'd mention one that actually haunted me a bit more, and it's more to do with just my personal situation. It's a really weird, but I don't know if anyone's even heard of this series. So it's Strangers in Paradise by Terry Moore.
Right, yeah, I haven't heard of that.
I hadn't. A friend basically just had them all. And just recommend, like it was sort of a good way to make friends. She was like, "Oh, read this book," and I was like, "Oh, okay." So it's just a really weird series. It's about that's just the best way. It's just weird. Like it's not good. It's not bad. It's just weird. So it's about these two women called Kachu and Francine, and they sort of have a bit of a like will they, won't they kind of relationship. And And like, so it's a bit of like a soap opera kind of setup but then there's this whole spy like side
Wow.
story.
Okay.
Like Kachu's like this assassin, like retired assassin, and I don't know, it was like, oh, this isn't where I thought it was going. Okay. And then there's this other guy, David, who's basically just the biggest third wheel of third wheels ever.
Oh dear.
Um,
Awkward.
but yeah. But basically right at the end in the last volume, one of the characters dies like horrifically. And it's not like horrifically in the sense of like, like gory, or they just have like a brain aneurysm and they just
Wow.
clonk their head on the floor in the bathroom, which I found terrifying because I was like, oh, that can happen to anyone. That's horrific.
Yeah.
And it was just the panel, like you turn the page and it was just a close up of his face and his eyes were in slightly different directions.
Oh.
I know, yeah, I was
Hate that.
not in a goofy way, in a like, oh, his brain's not working.
Yeah.
It was, ugh. And the reason I found that extra horrifying is because there was a person who, when I used to get the bus to work, there was a person that used to wait, just someone going to work as well. They looked exactly like this character that had died. Like their haircut was the same and they were the same age. And I was like, I know what you look like when you die. Like,
no.
So that's what I was just thinking for the, the next like 2 weeks or something.
Yeah.
To that stupid page. So yeah, that's a really specific thing. So that's more to do with, on top of, oh, that's a horrible thing. And then on top of that, there was just someone who unfortunately looked similar to the character. And then it kept reminding me of that page. And I was like, oh no, I can't get it out of my head. So that was the scariest thing I think I've read, was Strangers in Paradise.
And who was the author, sorry?
Terry Moore.
Terry Moore. Great.
Yeah. He's like the first. It's a really weird series where the first volume is a totally different style. It's way more cartoony, and then it's a lot more honed in and anatomically correct later on. So It's really weird looking first volume to like the last one. I think he was just making this show about these characters he really liked, and then it just sort of grew into this crazy soap opera, spy assassin, love triangle. It's really weird. It's just really weird.
It sounds interesting.
Yeah.
But horrifying at the same time.
Yeah, just because it came out of like nowhere. It was just happened, and then you turn the page, you're like, oh god. And I mainly read comics like when I'm about to go to bed, so that's the last thing my brain processed before I decide to go into sleep mode.
Yeah, have fun with that.
Yeah.
In your nightmares, yeah. Terrible. And so the group tried to move the conversation on quickly from that to something a bit more philosophical of what's the most meaningful comic to you?
Yeah, I had a really hard time coming to think of this one. Because, I think I just change my mind all the time with this kind of question.
Sure.
So I tried to just think of a comic that sort of had an effect on me first, I guess. And I think the comic that I just remember plowing through it, like reading it like the fastest I've ever read a comic, and that was Anya's Ghost by Vera Brongol, and I read it, like it's a story about this girl, Anya, and she's like a Russian immigrant living in America, in like high school, and she has like no friends, and she just wants to fit in and maybe be a bit popular. And then one day she just falls in this hole by accident, like a full-on well kind of shaped hole.
Wow.
And that's where she meets Emily, who's a ghost, about the same age as her, and it's just her skeletons in the bottom of the well, and then her ghost just sort of floats up, and then they're like, oh, we can be friends, because Emily hasn't got any friends either. So she takes a bit of her bone with her so she can leave the well, and then stuff starts to go a bit wrong. But yeah, like I first picked this book up, I think, at Thought Bubble
Right.
in like 2014, and I just remember reading it like on the train back, and then when I finished it, I was like, how did I finish that book already? Like I haven't even gotten off the train. Like what? I read it all on the train, which to be fair, it was a long train journey, but I was just, I don't know, surprised how quickly I read it. And also disappointed when I finished it. I was like, oh no, it's done. Gotta read it again. Yeah, like, because Vera's work is just so, just lovely looking. And it's, when I looked back on it, it was really weird because I sort of remember it being in colour. And then I looked back and I was like, oh, it's like black. Well, it's got a tint of purple or blues.
Right.
But it's not coloured, like it's not full coloured. It's mainly just black and white and then a tint for shadow and stuff. And I was like, oh man, like that just shows how strong the drawings were. That it didn't need colour really. Like her line art is just really strong and defining. And they're also simplistic. Like it's quite a cute style, which I also like. I quite like the cuter kind of big eyes kind of look when it comes to characters and stuff. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, there was something like about this comic, and it was something about like, oh, I could do this. Not like as a career, but like something about reading it and how fast I read it, and then seeing how maybe the fact it wasn't in color made me think like, oh, that'd be really cool if I could do something like this, like one day. So I think that would be the biggest like impact.
Definitely. So it was inspirational and aspirational.
Yeah,
In that
definitely.
respect. That's great. Fantastic. And so the group round the fire then go on to ask, what's the most underrated comic?
Yeah, so I had to. This whole list was quite hard because I've moved to Ireland now, and I don't I don't have any books with me, so I couldn't just look at my bookshelf and go, oh yeah, that one or that one. Like they're all in Wales, so I had to really like think like, oh God, okay, what do I own? Like, because I have
Yeah.
a lot of graphic novels, so
Awesome.
it was quite hard to think, oh, because you know sometimes you just forget about ones you have,
Yeah, totally.
especially underrated ones. Like, but I think one that this is one of my favorite comics, but I don't think many people know about it, and it might be because it's a European comic. I'm not sure, but I picked it up from New York. In a New York comic store. So I don't even know if I've seen it that much in Britain. They probably do sell it, but so it's Beauty by, oh, here we go. Hang on, another great foreign name for me to get. Um, Kara Oshta. Kara- oh,
Kira Oshta.
Kara Oshta. Yeah. So that's actually a French couple, so they're the illustrators.
Right.
So Marie Popipou, I'm assuming. I'm going to just butcher all these names.
Awesome.
And Sebastian Cosette. So they're the illustrators. And they've done loads of stuff that I really enjoy the look of. And it's written by, it just credited as Hubert. So those are the credits. Like, I guess the French like to be quite ominous about the authors, I'm not sure.
Sure.
But it's a really dark fairy tale. So there was something about like the look of it that intrigued me. I'm not usually into that kind of. It's almost got like a really old 1940s black and white cartoon style. Like that sort of really that old kind of black and white early animation style to it, where it's quite simplistic and like a bit wobbly looking. Like the characters don't quite look like they've got solid joints or anything like that. It's kind of like that style. And I usually not too into that, but there was something about this that was like, oh, beauty, like, oh, intriguing, okay. And when I looked into it, I was like, oh, no, this looks pretty unique. So it's about Cody, and she's this like sort of, she's deemed a very like ugly, like kind of like smells of fish village girl, and she unintentionally saves a fairy.
Right.
So the fairy is then like, oh, I will grant you a wish. So she wishes to be beautiful. This this wish sort of backfires in a horrific way. So she makes her beautiful, but as in not physically, just perceptionally. So Cody doesn't actually know what she looks like, but everyone else sees her as this absolutely stunning woman. So when Cody looks in the mirror or sees a reflection of herself, she just sees herself. But when people now see her, they see this like the most beautiful woman they've ever seen. And this ends up being way more of a curse than a gift.
Sure.
So it's basically like, old fairy tales. They always talk of the beautiful maiden, and, just because this woman is beautiful, all these men will fight for her, and, the whole damsel in distress sort of trope. It sort of plays with that, like, oh, but, what price is there to pay for this? So as soon as she goes back to the village, that's when she notices people go, oh, like, who are you? And she's like, oh, I'm Cody. And like, oh my goodness, you're so like what happened? Like, you don't look anything like yourself. And she even like, I think her smell changes as well. Like, she doesn't smell of fish anymore.
Well,
and
that
then
always helps.
Yeah. And then instantly the men in the village are magnetized to her.
Right.
So they just instantly start going, oh, like, just want to touch her. And, basically sexual harassment is basically just a switch. They just can't control themselves. So then she's saved by like a young lord. And it's all just a roller coaster of a ride from there, really. Like the story just escalates and escalates. Like, it wasn't the story I thought it was going to be, in a good way. And, it really explores the concept of beauty and what it means to have it and what it means to not have it. Especially like in a time where, women didn't have maybe political power. So, what does it, like, is the power just because someone, like, what power is it to be beautiful? And is it really like power, or is it like manipulation, or is it a curse, or it's all this kind of, it's just this exploration of this old sort of fairy tale trope of the beautiful maiden, or the queen, or the princess, and it's just how crazy the story gets. And because Cody as well, even like, I really liked her character. Like, at the beginning when she's deemed like ugly, she's kind of like froggish looking, she's a bit like droopy, her hair's a bit greasy, and she's got giant eyes that are a bit bulgy, and I think she's really cute, but like, it's deemed she is an ugly little woman, but she's still quite kind. But then when she becomes beautiful, stuff is just lands on her lap, and that starts to change her character. So that was quite interesting, showing how she changes, not just, because people are treating her differently, she starts becoming different, and not just the way she looks, because she hasn't really changed physically. Like when she looks in the mirror, she still doesn't know what she looks like. She doesn't know what other people see. So it's a bit of a weird thing that her whole identity that people are basing her off, she doesn't even know what it looks like. So it's just there's so many like metaphors and stuff like that in it,
and insights into that whole whole field of psychology, I guess. That really sounds fascinating. How long is it?
It's like sort of A4 size. It's not a huge book, but each page fits quite a few panels in. Like you could probably get through it in one read, like if you've got a good evening to
Cool.
yourself. It's in it's split in three issues. So the one I've got is like the collect, the all three collected on hardcover. Um, you can, I think, I'm pretty, yeah, you can buy it like on Amazon and stuff, but I just haven't seen it that much in like stores, unless they're really specific, like graphic novel stores, like Gosh or something in London. And when I was also just looking up like reviews to it, just to rekindle my memory of like the story, I just didn't really find that much, but people were way more. They seem to know the later work, which is Beautiful Darkness by the same people, and that is also like a brilliant read. But I put Beauty because it was less people seem to know that. But if people enjoy Beautiful Darkness, which is a really, really dark fairy tale-esque, with like almost like Thumbelina-sized people. I just bad times start happening, man. But people, yeah, it's. I just recommend. I mean, it's the apocalypse, so might as well just embrace it.
Yeah, totally. Go all in.
But yeah, Beauty is just. It's one of my favorites, and it's got a kind of good twist at the end as well. So, yeah.
Check it out.
Yeah, definitely.
Fantastic. And so the group comes to one of the hardest questions, which is for you, what's the best comic of all time?
Yeah, so I kind of realized after I made this list, I didn't have that many women on the list.
Right.
So I was like, oh no, I've already said which one I'll do. So I'll have as a royal runner-up. Hopefully someone else will mention this one. But Jen Wang's Prince and the Dressmaker. Hopefully someone else will talk about that one because
Great.
yeah, that's also a really good one. I know Sarah Millman sort of briefly mentioned Jen Wang's work as well, but hopefully someone else will go into that in a bit more detail because that also is a really, really good one. But I picked Three Shadows by Cyril Pedrosa. I don't know if you can get this book anymore, actually. It might be a bit of a hard find. But Cyril Pedrosa, he's worked for like Disney and stuff, so he's a really good artist. And so he did this story about a family who just live happily in the woods, but then one day these three horsemen like just appear out of nowhere, and the parents just know that they're there after their son. So the father goes on the run, takes his son away to save him, and it's just about a bit of like cat and mouse about this father trying to save his son. And it's really, really like there's some really like magical is not the right word, but mystical parts in the story, and it's all black and white as well. Like it's all done, with ink,
grey tones and things, or
no, just
not even grey
tones,
tones,
not even grey tones, just
wow.
And like it's just amazing how he even like he depicts fog somehow. He's pretty much just got black and white, like
yeah, just full on.
His brush technique is just amazing, and yeah, so the style's very unique as well. Like it's very European, as well though. It's like there's just something about like Spanish, Portuguese, France, like they just got it, man. Like they don't
style.
They just don't follow the cliche. Like they just got their own thing going, and it's just really refreshing. Like I can tell pretty much when I'm like, that's French, like definitely French. Yeah, I don't know. They got better funding over there or something. I don't know, but it's a really like in the back of the book, it basically says, what sacrifice are parents willing to make to save their child? So it's a very like heavy and like emotional and bittersweet story. And it does, tackle some of, a parent's worst fear, basically. So yeah, I keep recommending these really dark ones, but I guess they're the ones that I don't speak to me the most. Because
Totally.
they dare to go there.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes this book stand out is, it's covering a really hard subject. But it's a subject that's still digestible because it's covering it in this mystical, fantasy-esque cover kind of thing. So, but it's still like the raw emotions are still there. And the art is just like outstanding as well. Like the art alone was like when I was trying to think of best book, this popped up just from the art. And then I just thought, I was trying to also think of what maybe people haven't have heard of before.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of animators know of this book because of the artist. But I'm not sure about the common comic sort of reader. Like maybe someone who's in, full on to their graphic novels. But maybe someone who's a bit more into their issues, they might not have caught this one. And it's really good. Yeah, don't know if I could read this if I had a kid. So good luck there, Sam.
Yeah, my daughter's now just over 20 months old, and I'm finding some of the storylines of like some comics that I used to read like very difficult to reread.
Yeah. There's some podcasts like crime podcasts, and whenever there's like a crime with children involved, anyone who's got a kid, they're like, "Don't send me the link. I can't listen to it." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." It's too real. So I'm just absorbing all the trauma before I have kids, because then it's like, oh well, if it doesn't get ruined. I remember actually, my mum hated the Lovely Bones book.
Right.
Like my dad was reading it, my auntie was reading it, and they recommended it to my mum. And I was the same age as the character at the time.
No.
So I think the character's like 14 and I was also 14. And it gets to the crime part, and my mum apparently just threw the book across the room. And she was just like angry at my dad. She's like, "Why did you recommend this book to me?" So, I mean, she might be able to read it now because like, it's not as close to home in the sense that I'm not the same age as the character anymore. But at the time it was just too raw. Like it was just too much association. So, yeah, that's like a different story, I guess. But I guess it's the same way. I just don't have that yet.
No.
So yeah, I just read all that stuff before.
Yeah, before you get kids and
stuff.
stuff.
And then it's just ruined permanently. Yeah. But yeah, because a lot of like there's nothing traumatic visually about Three Shadows. Like it doesn't go into that really like oh, let's just show you something traumatic. It's a lot more metaphorical and like almost poetry-esque about it.
Excellent.
So yeah, I think you would enjoy it. But it does come from like a really raw place. From doing research on it, I think it does say in the book as well. He wrote this comic because he was witnessing his friend's child dying. So he wanted to do, so it's literally from like a real place. So it's not necessarily a tribute, but it's, he's depicting a story that a lot of the time people don't want to talk about. So I think it's sort of a good way to, and he's not doing it in an exploitory way at all. Like it's a really beautifully written story, and it's a story that's obviously maybe a lot of people don't want to hear. But
well, sorry about that, folks. My internet just decided to drop out just as Bryony was having a philosophical epiphany. But Bryony, you were talking about Three Shadows and where it came from, basically.
Okay, I'm scared to talk about it again in case it's just cursed and it's just like stop talking about it.
Dear, yeah, maybe.
But yeah, it was basically sadly inspired by Cyril Pedrosa witnessing his friends sort of watching their child die. So it comes from a really sad sort of morbid. Like that's the worst thing like a parent could possibly go through. So it's, I don't know if tribute's the right word, but this piece was inspired, but it doesn't feel exploitory in any way at all. Like it's very, very beautiful. So, but like I think knowing that it's come from somewhere real as well just makes the book stronger, as well. Like knowing that this is, and it doesn't, because the book isn't, it's not gory or anything. It's very poetic, and it's in its script and its writing and the visuals, like it's just a really, like, almost in a weird way, like a religious way, but not organized religion, just sort of a spiritual, I guess. It was just really, in a weird way, nice reading it. Like, obviously still sad, but just with the art as well. And I think, like, the biggest theme of the whole thing is like acceptance and like moving on, and all really, really hard things that, like, everyone has to go through, but obviously the hardest is if it's under those circumstances. And I hadn't read anything where it had gone through that before either, so it was also like a new thing for me to experience, in the sense of reading a graphic novel. So yeah, to me that's the greatest, just because of the way it was constructed, and the, like, just the book itself is actually a really, really nice thing to handle. Like, the paper is really unique, like it's a bit more textured.
Right.
So it actually feels more like an actual page that he's drawn directly onto, rather than just a print as well.
Even
cool. And all the, like, the sides, so when the book's closed, like all the side of the pages are all almost like torn, like ruffled.
Right.
Rather than like a clean cut typical book. So it stands out anyway, just when you're holding it with it closed. So when you actually dive into it as well. So that's, I mean, if anyone can get their hands on one, I really recommend it, if you can handle the subject matter. But
yeah,
it's
sure.
it's yeah. I mean, it's not as horrific as Habibi, so otherwise I would have put it there.
Fantastic, brilliant. And so unfortunately, what happens is that one night, the group have decided that they're going to have to burn all of your comics but one. So which one do you choose to keep?
No, this is the thing. From the questions that I've got, like, a lot of these I would quite easily burn. Like, the amount of volumes that are in Strangers in Paradise, I'm pretty sure that would sustain a fire for a few nights.
Nice.
Which one would I keep? Because, I mean, Giant Days is really nostalgic and fun, but I feel like if I would kind of maybe want something sad as well. Because I think if I was in the apocalypse, Giant Days would probably just make me sad at, like, all the nitty gritty personal dramas the girls were having, when I'm like, we're like, like, living.
Why can't I just go down the pub and have a pint or whatever?
Yeah, so I might keep Beauty.
Great.
Because it's also set in medieval times, so I guess they also don't have to, they don't know what it's like to have a mobile phone, so maybe those times would be closer to the times I'll be living through, minus the beautiful dresses and royal family members proposing to you and stuff. I'd probably keep Beauty.
Fantastic.
It's also one of the lightest ones to carry, so I'm also thinking it in a smart way.
Good on the move as well.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Big
Fantastic.
but light.
So along with beauty, you're allowed a weapon, tool, or useful item.
Yes. Um, so mine is hope. Oh.
Oh.
Everyone's like, what the fuck? Bail. But like, I mean, oh, like weapon and all that stuff, like I don't know. I feel like unless we were fighting off bears or something, like again, I'm being sickeningly optimistic. I like to think we'll
Somebody
sort
needs
of
to be.
somehow just forge our way, maybe just eat some berries or something, live a hard raw diet. Nothing cooked. Just yeah. Um, I mean, if you haven't got hope in the sense that half the planet has just been destroyed,
Yeah.
you're probably not really going to make it that far, no matter how many awesome weapons you have anyway. So I'm gonna say hope.
Big dollop of hope. Awesome.
Yeah, the biggest bag you can find.
Bingo. We all need a
Yeah,
bit more of that, don't we?
yeah, definitely.
Fantastic. Well, Bryony Evans, thank you so much for sharing your comics for the apocalypse. It's been a real pleasure.
Yeah, thanks. It was actually like I had to do a bit of homework just
Yeah.
coming up with this list as well. So that was kind of fun trying to revisit books through the years that I've read. Um, and yeah, trying to categorize them as well was also like, oh yeah, which ones made me scared, or which ones made me laugh, or which one's underrated. And so that was actually quite like, because it says a lot about a person what their collection is, and then it says
Yes.
even more when they start picking ones they think is good. So yeah, it's really interesting, especially like all the other guests you've got. I just listened to Tony's
Oh, great.
today. So obviously, he's picked stuff that obviously I wouldn't pick.
Sure.
Just because, yeah, I have totally different tastes. But that's really good, like just to go through all the people and just see like the same question but like totally different answers
Yeah,
is
this is the
really
amazing
fun.
thing. Everybody's had different answers.
Yeah. Well,
There have been Giant Days, I think, has come up a couple of times for the funniest.
there you go.
But I think that's the only consistent choice. All the others have
I
been
think that
completely
just shows how
different.
many funny comics there are. It's really hard to make a comic funny.
Yeah,
Um,
funny. Yeah,
And I wanted to put Giant Days because I really do like Giant Days.
yeah,
But the ones I was thinking of was just like more like Alex Norris with his Oh No
right.
comics. I don't know. You should just type in Oh No comics, and it's all the same punchline. It's just this little stick blob man going Oh No, but for some reason it still makes me laugh. It doesn't even you even know what the punchline is going to be, and they're still
Right.
funny. Um,
That's what it
but
needs to be.
they're like 3 panels, and so I think something when it comes to like little Twitter comic little panels, they make me laugh more than like most
In the
comics
full
have.
comic, yeah,
Yeah, and I
yeah,
think it's
definitely.
because like there's something about the quick witty. It's something about that. Yeah, comics
Yes.
being funny is I think really hard. On top of that, like comedy is very subjective, and you don't get the whole timing thing with comics as much either. Like it's really hard to get the timing because obviously the person's just reading it. But yeah, so that one was hard, but at the same time I was like, it's got to be Giant Days, just because.
Straight up.
Yeah, I just don't think I've got that much in my collection that are funny comics either. So it'll be interesting to see what other people say about that one actually,
Yeah, definitely.
other than Giant Days.
Yeah, totally.
And
And
John Allison is like, yeah.
cha-ching. Yeah, well, we put everybody's answers on the Reddit community, so it'd be good to kind of see if there's any consistency there through the answers at all.
Yeah,
And
I'll have
yeah,
I'll have all the correct spelling for all the authors' names that I have royally butchered, so that'll be much better.
oh yeah,
Just to
sure,
Google
sure.
everyone.
It's all good.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, where for the last time, where can listeners find you?
So I'm most active on Twitter. So you can find me at Flourishing Quirk, and it's flourishing without an O. because I like to be awkward.
Oh,
So yeah, you can find me on there, and through there that you can find like my Tumblr and Instagram, and or on the Wine and Zine website that I mentioned at the beginning. So wineandzine.bigcartel.com. There's like just a page on it about the artists, and there's just all of us, and it's got all our links, like email, Twitter, website, like the whole shebang. So that's like a nice little archive if you want to go through all that kind of stuff as well.
Fantastic. Great. And yeah, all those links are in the show notes, so people can just click straight through there. Well, thanks again, Bryony Evans, for your time this evening. And I hope to see you at a con soon.
Yeah, hopefully I'll do at least one this year. I'm kind of in Ireland at the moment, so hopefully maybe Thought Bubble. Like we'll see how it goes, but I do miss cons. Like a few have already been, and I've been like, oh.
Yeah, True Believers was great.
Oh, I wasn't there.
Yeah, sorry, dude.
Hopefully next year. Yeah,
fingers crossed. Excellent. Well, thanks again, and hopefully see you soon.
Yeah, thank you very much. And this was really fun.
Fantastic. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks again to Bryony for being on Comics for the Apocalypse. I had a whale of a time. If you enjoyed the show today, please leave a review for us on iTunes or whichever podcast service you use, as not only will it let me know that I've done a good job, but I believe that it makes others aware of the show as well. And if you'd like to check out Bryony's work or follow her on social media, those links are in the show notes, along with all of our own links to the various areas of the internet. And finally, as long as the apocalypse doesn't come to pass in the next week, I'll see you next Monday. Bye for now.